Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this, a Monday, January 19th, 2026. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a bit about my co-host. Folks, do you know that today is National Imagination Day? And earlier on, I said to her, how are you going to celebrate National Imagination Day? And she said, I can't think of any way. She is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is the sensational Sheila Gunn Reid. How you doing there, Sheila?
David, I am great. I'm a little sore. I was at a curling bonspiel over the weekend. I used muscles that I haven't used in a very long time, but you know what? I was the ringer on my team, and that ain't saying much. But we had a lot of fun. It was good.
As someone who's never played curling, which is kind of, interesting because I literally am in walking distance of the Richmond Hill Curling Club. But how does that sport take a toll on your body? I mean, I've always complained that the thing that turns me off about curling is the lack of physicality. For example, Sheila, throwing a rock down the ice. You want to get me on side with curling, have a goaltender that you got to get the rock past. Then I'm tuning in, okay, sister?
You've never curled, clearly. You have to be very lithe and have excellent balance to be able to stretch and throw your rock down the ice. And then, anyways, I had a good time. Thanks to the guys from the Sean Newman podcast for having us. It's also, by the way, National... What did I see it? National No Name Calling Week. The whole week, I'm supposed to refrain from calling names. I work in politics. That is impossible.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is going to be the toughest week of your year, Sheila.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. I don't do those things. I should tell everybody what we're doing because we have a really packed day and I can't really go late today.
Yes.
If you are watching us, let me move my methylene blue down. If you're watching us on Rumble, thanks for watching. A great free speech platform over there. If you want to get involved in the show, support the work that we do out of the goodness of your heart, because we'll never take any money from Mark Carney to do the work that we do. We're one of the few remaining outlets that will not take any money. If you can support us by leaving a Rumble rant, that's our paid chat. And if it's over the $5 US cutoff, it's obligatory that we'll read it on air. If you're watching us on YouTube, their paid chat is called a super chat and the same rules apply. But there's an extra way that you can help us over on YouTube. And that is if you missed the live version of the show, you can leave a paid chat called a super thanks. And I want to address something that came up in the comments. Actually, somebody took the time to send an email. And I know you're not a regular viewer because I've actually brought this up myself. I got a new chair in my office over the Christmas break, and I am too small for the chair. So I don't know how to sit in it because if I scooch over, you could probably get one more of me in here. So sometimes I end up too far back and it's wide, so it's hard to get it under the desk. And somebody said, I don't like how Sheila sits in the chair. Same, sister, same. I just don't know how to sit in this chair. So I try to get up as close as I can, but sometimes I end up drifting back because it's just way too big.
Sheila, you didn't attend a Star Trek convention or anything like that. That looks like one of the chairs from the one of the Enterprises. Don't ask me how I know this, of course.
You're a nerd. And it's, I liked my other chair, but I had literally worn it out. Okay. And I was sliding off the front of it all the time. So I got a new chair. And anyways, I don't know how to sit in it. And so don't send any more emails. I understand. I have the same concerns. Also, some of you get angry because I don't always keep eye contact with the camera right in front of me.
Yeah, that makes me angry.
Does it?
Yeah. I'll be talking away. I've got all this pithy prose coming out of my mouth. And you're like this.
No, that's not it. It's a little different because when you talk, I do zone out. And I feel like our viewers can relate. But no, I'm watching here to see what's happening in the studio because I don't have somebody on the other side of a window like David has. I also don't have a printout of the schedule in front of me. I have to rely on it on my computer. So that's here. And then if you see me looking over here with my eyes going down here, I'm making sure that something hasn't catastrophized itself. So my audio, my viz, all of that, my levels are right there for me to pay attention to. I don't have a super producer like David does. I have to do it all by myself. So sometimes my eyes wander, but David is always in my ear talking. So I am paying attention, but please quit sending those emails, quit writing those comments. I am more tuned into everything than you could even imagine. Okay, David, take it away.
I'll let it slide, Sheila, because I don't know what I would do without the awesome Olivia in my corner.
Right. Look at it. I'm scooched too far back again. Hang on.
Kind of like Miss Elizabeth with the Macho Man. Not that I'm a Macho Man, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I've never seen Olivia in sequins either, so we could just rule that one right out. Hey, let's go into what the guys are doing. So Ezra and Avi Yamini from Australia, they've both sort of half circumnavigated the globe, and they've brought with them Lincoln Jay as a videographer and Avi's videographer Benji, and they are in Davos. Why? The horrors of the World Economic Forum. We've got a quick video from Ezra before we get into it.
Ezra Levant here. We've been traveling 14 hours from Canada. We're not even there yet. We're going to Davos for the World Economic Forum. Avi Yamini, how long have you been traveling?
I think it's about 32 hours now, and we're almost there.
And we do this every year. We come to the World Economic Forum getaway in the Swiss Alps. They make it hard to get to, but we come here because we like to scrum the world's VVIPs, the oligarchs, the masters of the universe, the people who want to rule over you, whether it's Larry Fink of BlackRock or John Kerry, the ambassador global warming extremist. If they're out there, we're going to find them on the streets.
Pfizer, who else do we have? WHO. We've done...
Even Greta.
5 years now, we've hit some of the biggest names and the most important people on the planet that want to tell you how to live your life. And this year is going to be no different.
To find all our reports, go to WEFreports.com. We have all our videos there, and if you can help chip in to help us crowdfund this trip, it's actually pretty expensive to come all this way. Please do that at WEFreports.com, and if you chip in $100, Avi and I are going to have a private Zoom town hall on Thursday night that you'll be invited to if you can chip in 100. We'll see you soon. I'm excited to be here. We do heavy-duty work that no one else does.
WEFreports.com. Bookmark it now and chip in if you can.
You know, Sheila, Ezra's so right. Nobody else does this. And to prove it, you know what I woke up to this morning? It was an X posting from Rachel Thomas, the MP for Lethbridge.
Yep.
Here's what she said. This is going to prove my point of why it's so important for Ezra and Lincoln and Benji and Avi to be in Davos right now. Quote, the CBC has been caught red-handed again. Mark Carney explicitly committed Canada to helping establish a, quote, new world order, end quote, with China, yet the CBC chose to cut that statement from the clip they aired. Canadians deserve honest, complete reporting. Why is the CBC misleading the public, and why are they running cover for Mark Carney, end quote? I think we all know the answer to that rhetorical question. But, you know, Sheila, in the journalism business, this is known as burying the lead. In other words, you took the most important thing of the story, Mark Carney channeling his inner Darth Vader and going, New World Order, and not even mentioning. This is absolutely disgraceful, but really not surprising, is it?
You know, it's more than burying the lead, because at least when you bury the lead, it ends up somewhere in the story.
Good point.
But this is completely omitting the crux of the story. And the CBC, with their dwindling viewership, seems completely unaware of their dwindling viewership, because this clip of Mark Carney was viral everywhere, including in the United States. It made the podcast rounds all weekend. Crowder had a big piece on it, I think a 12-minute piece, where he said, Canada now is a national security threat to the Americans, except you, Alberta. He made that very clear. We're not including you in all of this. And you can't help but think about how this accelerates certain overtures from the Americans toward Greenland. Because if you want a strategic partner or a strategic landmass in the north, the Americans are looking at Canada and saying, yeah, NORAD's fine, but they ain't it.
Yep. And it also tells you something, Sheila, when we analyze why are there so many Eastern boomers? Because I know you've got different boomers out west.
We call them bloomers, blue boomers. They're very conservative.
But when you wonder, how are they falling for the same racket, election after election, going for liberal red? Well, Sheila, imagine being a boomer and all your news is coming from the CBC. You are completely unaware of Carney's New World Order reference, aren't you?
Yeah, right. Because there's a whole section of the Canadian population that believes if I didn't see it on the CBC, if I didn't see it on mainstream media, it just didn't happen. And you can't get other news on Facebook and Meta, once again, thanks to the Liberals. So I know that the demographic on Facebook is a little bit older. The older demographic used to look at pictures of their grandkids and get the news on Facebook, but in Canada, that doesn't happen. And again, before I talk about boomers, I have to give my obligatory statement. If you are an Eastern boomer and you voted for Poilievre, I'm not talking about you. And let me put this into context for myself. I am a white middle-aged lady. I realize there's a real political problem with them out there. I'm not one of them, so I don't take it personally when they say that there's a problem with white middle-aged ladies. It's not me. So if you are a conservative boomer, I'm not talking about you. But there is a stark contrast between the voting habits of Eastern boomers versus Western boomers. And I saw it firsthand. I was at a independence petition signing, and I've got a story coming out later, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, in Drayton Valley, small oil patch town, really hard hit during the Notley years. And it was young families there to sign the petition and their grandparents saying, this doesn't even matter to me. Like me personally, I'm fine, but I am here voting for a better life for the young people. That's the difference between Western boomers and Eastern boomers and their voting habits.
I would only point out, Sheila, I don't think we're allowed to use the word lady anymore. I know when I'm at left-wing protests and I say that, or if I say that's not very ladylike, when they're giving me the middle finger and dropping F-bombs, if I say lady, they freak out. But we live in a day and age of slut walk, so I guess maybe I should have used the S word instead. It's so complicated these days.
You can call me a lady, but I'd have to start behaving like one, and I'm not sure I'm willing to do that. Mark Carney, by the way, the gents over there in Davos just might run into Carney. They've run into Carney on the street before, but he's leaving Qatar.
Oh, yeah.
On his way over there. I can even tell you his schedule, because despite the fact that I'm not allowed to go to a Carney press conference anywhere, I am on the PMO press release list. And so 9:45 tomorrow, Prime Minister will participate in a country strategy dialogue at the World Economic Forum. Don't worry, there won't be any questions, just a photo op. 12:30, the Prime Minister will meet with the President of France, his bro in that bromance, Emmanuel Macron. Once again, just a photo op. And then 4:30, the Prime Minister of Canada will deliver remarks and participate in a featured conversation during a special plenary session of the World Economic Forum annual meeting. There will be a press conference, but our guys will not be allowed in because they are not the media lapdogs of the Prime Minister. And at 7:30, the Prime Minister will attend and deliver remarks at a welcome dinner for the open forum at the World Economic Forum annual meeting. That's closed to media. So our Prime Minister, who is the World Economic Forum Prime Minister, this is his first time there. And you're going to see him, I bet, say some pretty anti-American things at the World Economic Forum. I know Trump is going to give a speech. I'm not sure if it will be in person, though.
It's his first time there indeed, Sheila, as Prime Minister.
Prime Minister, yeah.
He's a frequent flyer when it comes to the World Economic Forum. And Sheila, I'm going to ask you, I'll give you my answer first. If you were able to scrum Carney and Davos, you got that 30-second elevator pitch, what question would you ask him? What I would be fascinated And I admit, in my context, it's like the tagline from Jaws 4, perhaps the worst movie in the franchise, but great tagline. This time it's personal. You might recall when Avi and Ezra were in Davos 2 years ago, and it was literally days after I had been physically assaulted and falsely arrested by Fraulein Freeland's henchman, Uncle Fester of the Mounties, and they scrummed Carney. And Carney said words to the effect, oh, that's wrong. You know, a free press is so important. My question right now in 2026 would be, what happened? Why were you a defender of free press and independent media in 2024 and you become prime minister? Oh, no, never mind that rubbish. I've got a new agenda. I wonder what he would say, Sheila.
Well, I don't believe that he actually believes in the free press. I mean, he said to Ezra, oh, I'm a public figure. Of course I should be engaging with the media. That's part of what the media does, is hold public figures to account. Or, you know, I'm paraphrasing probably. I'm probably even putting it a lot better than he did. But look what he's done over the last 48 to 72 hours. He's cozied up to some of the most authoritarian regimes on the face of the earth.
Great point.
You don't cozy up to China if you care about freedom. You sure as hell don't cozy up to Qatar like they are if you care about freedom. But that's exactly what they did. We have this article, or sorry, this is from the official prime minister's account. And it is on a deal, or at least an agreement between Canada and Qatar. I think now the world's largest state sponsor of terror.
Yep.
And we strengthen our ties. We should be severing them all and creating new opportunities for cooperation in the years ahead. Like what? Like what? And anyways, you can see the stark contrast between our cultures and theirs in the two photos there.
You know, Sheila, I don't care how much money Qatar has. The idea of getting into bed with this regime, now the number one state sponsor of terrorism, given Iran's problems, it is inexplicable. And the same goes for the U.S. too, Sheila. I don't understand where Donald Trump is coming from in terms of getting cozy with Qatar. This is the enemy. This is not an ally. And it's absolutely baffling. And really, Qatar, China, the staunch Western allies of Canada, this is where Carney is going to, of all places on the globe. Absolutely baffling.
Well, and if you wanted what Qatar has, oil wealth,
Yeah.
Wouldn't you develop it here at home? Like, wouldn't you develop
there's no
it here at home?
business case for that. Blackface said so.
As an Albertan, when you look at the federal government cozying up to places like Qatar while continuing to shaft you on a pipeline, and you're like, we're over here. Our girls can have driver's license. They might even work in the oil patch. And you've got almost zero human rights for women in Qatar.
Yeah.
But that is where these two feminist cabinet ministers went to sign this new agreement for opportunities. In the meantime, we're like, hey, we're right here.
Yep.
We could be richer, but you won't let us.
And we're not funding the likes of the Muslim Brotherhood. Well, not yet, I probably should say. So, yeah, but like I said, evidently Trudeau said, well, he didn't, not evidently, he did say there was no business case for liquefied natural gas. And did I read something right last week? We're striking a deal with Egypt to get that very product?
I did a story on it. It's sort of the mainstream media didn't report on it, but I watch the oil and gas publications and announcements around the world just because my family interests in these things. And yeah, we are importing liquefied natural gas from Egypt to the east coast of Canada, and Egypt actually struggles to meet domestic demand, but somehow they've figured out how to build an export terminal. Wouldn't that be nice? We can't build an export terminal, and we can't build transnational infrastructure to deal with these kinds of things. We've got liquid gas that hell wouldn't have here in the West. We just can't get it anywhere because of the liberals. And so once again, the liberals are doing these deals with Middle Eastern countries, and we're like, hello, right here.
So we're going to import liquefied natural gas from Egypt, and that ties into the next story. We're evidently going to import EVs from China. And Sheila, maybe the bromance is over. Doug Ford went on a bona fide rant about this. We have some video. Let's see him slamming the person that just a few months ago we couldn't get enough of. Maybe it's over.
They were on weekend getaways together.
Yeah, that's right, in cottage country.
Yeah.
I thought, I didn't know, is that Ford and Carney having a dinner, or did I just tune into an episode of Heated Rivalry? Anyway, let's check out what Doug had to say.
Not too sure if President Trump wants Chinese spy vehicles coming across the border, but I'm betting the answer is no. You know, when you get on your cell phone, it's the Chinese that are going to be listening to your, and I'm not making this stuff up, they're going to be listening to your telephone conversation. I find it ironic that the Prime Minister is using a burner phone and all his staff over in China. But we're making a deal, it's Huawei 2.0, to come back into Canada, and we get nothing but potential job losses in our factories right across the board. Not too sure.
And you know what, Sheila? Doug Ford is 100% right.
Sure he is.
You know, I know the amount of Chinese EVs coming into the market this year, assuming they get their act together for this year, because I'm just wondering who the dealership network is going to be. 49,000 over the course of 5 years, it'll increase to 70,000. Of course, it'll go beyond that. But the biggest fallacy of this EV deal is when you see Carney saying this is going to lead to domestic manufacturing. That is absolutely a lie. First of all, it's not the Chinese model to set up a factory in North America to produce their stuff. They produce it in China and they export it. Secondly, even if they did set up a factory, Sheila, these EVs will not be allowed into the U.S. That is a fact. Yeah. How would such a factory exist? You have a massive automaking factory only for the Canadian domestic market. I can tell you, Sheila, about 90% of the vehicles manufactured in Canada go right to the U.S. The idea that you would have a plant, a manufacturing plant, only for Canadian consumption is not viable whatsoever. So again, I'm sorry to say it, but I got to call it like the ump. Carney lying through his teeth yet again.
Yeah, you know, as Shania Twain once sang, dance with the one that brought you, Doug. Doug Ford screwed over the Conservatives in the last election. Yep. He was all elbows up. He was fighting. You know what? He could have been in the Liberal cabinet most days. Now we just got screwed. But they did throw him a bit of a bone here. And this is sort of all fresh off the heels of that Scott Moe hostage video that we saw. From that announcement. Oh my goodness.
When he said new world
like,
order. What?
Oh, and I think it was Jolie smirking. Like, you know, I was talking to Lise about this over the weekend because Lise is a Sasky, so she had a unique perspective on that. And I was like, Lise, because it was very clear that Mark Carney rehearsed that in a bathroom mirror several times, right? And Jolie smirked when he said it. So she obviously knew he was going to say it too. I think they did that to embarrass Scott Moe. So that sinister phrase would alienate Scott Moe from his base because he's got to sit there with those three other yahoos. See, it's already, you can't call anybody a name day, and I did it already. He's got to sit there with those three other yahoos talking about the New World Order, and he's like, I just came here for canola tariffs. Like, what are you doing? And you could see in the comment section on Facebook under Scott Moe's announcement where, you know, some partial canola tariffs are lifted, that his base was just destroying him for even being there while he said that.
But, you know, Sheila, in fairness, what was Mark Carney thinking? Well, like, we know he's all about the New World Order. If you need proof of that, get his book, Values. But what would make him pronounce that publicly?
Because he can.
Pardon?
Because he can. It's just salt in the wound.
Because I even
he
saw...
gets to embarrass Scott Moe.
Yeah.
And you know, anybody who mentions it's a conspiracy theorist, you know CBC is going to run cover for him because he can. Because he can do it. Because he can rub it in our faces.
But I even saw blowback in the left-wing media, Sheila. Well, not the CBC, of course.
You
that
couldn't
phrase
see
did
it
not
in the CBC at all.
But so I don't know where the political capital is here in terms of playing your cards face up in terms of this agenda. Maybe it was just a momentary lapse. Remember, it wasn't just the words; it was the way in which he said it. You know,
New World Order. It's like watching wrestling in the late 90s.
I know.
But there is something in here for Doug Ford. So, and I don't know how much this will manifest, but the Chinese do want access to our minerals in this deal, and they want access to the battery production that's heavily subsidized in Canada for their vehicles. So, you know, there is a non-existent electric vehicle battery market in Canada. Maybe Doug Ford's electric vehicle battery plants will find markets elsewhere. I don't know. I'm trying to find the glass half full. Obviously, there isn't one.
Oh, and Sheila, one last epilogue on Doug Ford going anti-China, and something you will never see in the mainstream media, but I covered this last year. Why is it with our liquor monopoly in Ontario, the LCBO, we have, the last time I looked, it was more than 60 products sourced from China? Why? Why are we not, like right now you can't get bourbon from Kentucky, you can't get California wine. Soon, you might not be able to get Crown Royal whiskey if the plant is closed next month, and it looks like that is the fate of that plant in Amherstburg. But if China is such an existential threat, and Doug Ford's worried about spy phones and spy cars, why are we doing business in terms of alcohol with the People's Republic of China?
Right. And we remember that the Toronto area was the ground zero for the Chinese police stations. And
yes,
that was a huge controversy. And now we have Mark Carney talking about the RCMP collaborating with the Chinese. So I guess they don't need to have a physical footprint anymore. They could just work out of the RCMP station. Like, what is this all about? And then, you know, the Chinese media having access to our politicians, but we don't have access to those same politicians? It's insane.
It is. And Sheila, isn't it amazing what a difference 8 or 9 months make, you know, compared to the election campaign when Carney was calling out China as our biggest security threat? What happened?
An election happened. That's what happened. And, you know, like,
and he won the election.
Why in God's name did I subject myself to the show theater of the Foreign Interference Commission?
Yep.
Knowing full well the outcome after sitting through the Public Order Emergency Commission, knowing the outcome of that. Why did I subject myself to any of it when nobody would take it seriously at the end anyway? Like, we did 6 weeks of that. We heard from witnesses, Canadian politicians saying they were followed, threatened, families intimidated, Chinese police stations, Chinese expats being snatched off our streets, at least 2 of them, by the way, and taken back to China. God only knows what happened to them. Mm-hmm. Besides all the terrible things that China already does to its own citizens, the Christians, the Uyghurs, what are we doing here? Except insofar as we know Chinese influence always benefits the Liberals, and quite likely Brookfield. I just haven't had them a minute today to Google Brookfield plus China, but I'll figure it out.
And it's not just the Chinese, Sheila. We know that there are more than 700 IRGC members freely wandering around Canada. Get into Canada, no muss, no fuss. And you know what kills me? We should make mention, since we're on the Doug Ford file, I don't think we have video. If I'm incorrect, Olivia will tell me. But here's his quote. Doug Ford's weighing into international affairs.
He's concerned again.
I am deeply concerned. to hear about the rising death toll in Iran at the hands of government forces. I stand with the people of Iran against tyranny and in support of a peaceful, free, and democratic future for their country. End quote. As Clara Peller, the Wendy's spokeswoman, used to say in the 80s, where's the beef? What are you going to do about it? Can you do anything about it? But just to put a statement on the record, yeah, I stand with you, but I'm not going to get my hands dirty. I don't know. Seems a little disingenuous to me, Sheila.
Yeah, I'm not anticipating that Doug Ford should send an OPP hit squad into Tehran and black bag a mullah.
Why not?
That's not what. Well, it would be cute to watch, but that's not what I want. But the Hamas hate marches in Jewish neighborhoods in Toronto, he could do something about.
Perfect.
He could do something about the police giving an escort to these people right into the Jewish neighborhood. You could do something about that.
Yep.
Do you people even have a public safety minister? There are plenty of things you can do as a provincial government to deal with this sort of stuff if the city won't. And the city isn't. And Doug Ford has the power to do certain things. He's just not.
Yeah.
He's concerned, though.
It's so sad. This is a supposed voice of conservatism for the largest province in our dominion.
And you know what? Even if he is just, he doesn't believe a word he's saying, and I'm not sure that Doug Ford believes anything he says on any given day.
I agree.
He's mad at Mark Carney. Last month, 3 weeks ago, 90 seconds ago, he was in love with him. They were going camping together or whatever they do. It's such, even if he doesn't believe anything, it's a winning issue to stand with the Iranian people right now. We've got this video from our Scarlet Grace, 6.5 thousand retweets, 302,000 views on it. It went viral everywhere, including the United States. This is a massive crowd in Richmond Hill, Toronto, in support of the Iranian people. Even if Doug Ford doesn't believe a word he says, you could, like, just politically speaking, this is a large amount of people. Bring them into your movement. And stand up for them.
And by the way, Sheila, that is incredible. That's literally within walking distance of where I live. I spoke to the camera woman, Avery, earlier today, and look at how massive. They had to close Yonge Street. There was so much pedestrian traffic. They had to close it to vehicles, as you can see. Avery told me she did not see a single member of the mainstream media covering this. Can you imagine?
That reminds me of the religious freedom event I went to in Saskatoon last Wednesday. I think the video's up today. Global News is literally across the parking lot.
Right.
Global News Saskatoon. I walked out of the hotel because I'm like, I mentioned to some of the MPs that were there. I'm like, I guess like the other media didn't get the message. And Kelly Block is like, Global is right there. And so when I was going back out to the vehicle, I was like, no, it can't be like literally right there. It has to be like at least a few blocks away. No, I walk outside and it's dark, but I'm getting a suntan from the Global News sign that is like bearing down on the hotel conference center where they held this thing. I'm like, they couldn't even walk across the park. You didn't have to start a vehicle. You could just walk 200 steps and end up where 400 people were talking about religious freedom, including a whole gaggle of the Sask Party caucus and 4 high-level MPs for the Poilievre's caucus. So, like, what are you doing? No, I guess not newsworthy.
You weren't lying. I was looking at that video of you. It did look like you had a suntan, Sheila.
I'm telling you. The lighting was terrible in that conference room, but whatever.
But you know what? Can it be more obvious than that? This is a 100-meter stroll across a public area, and nothing to see here.
Yeah, like literally, if they held it in the building, would be the only possible way that it would have been closer for Global News to attend. Like, run up and stick a microphone in the face of a conservative politician. You know, like
Well.
usually they love to do that, but not on this issue anyway. We should hit an ad break
Yes.
and then come back on the other side, because then we've got China, who wants to take over Taiwan
And
by
Greenland.
force, and Greenland, and who retook Hong Kong. All kinds of aspirations in the South China Sea are suddenly defenders of territorial integrity when it comes to Greenland. Okay. Oh, they've also taken over most of Africa, economically speaking. But anyways, we'll talk about them on the other side of the break, because they've reared their ugly heads on this issue. And then we've got a couple of chats. Maybe we'll talk about those before we continue on.
Gun bans make great distractions.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same
We
rhetoric.
will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us, Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
You like the hat? Me too. Same strong message about making Canada great again, but in a really cool color, black and gold. There's other colors available, and it's an all Canadian site. So if you want to signal your tribe or trigger a Liberal, go to mcgahats.ca today.
Big news! Rebel News now has premium memberships on X, Locals, and right here on YouTube. For just $4.99 a month on YouTube, you'll get loyalty badges, custom emojis, and access to members-only chats during our live streams. At $8.99 a month, you'll also unlock Rebel News Plus shows and our documentaries. But here's the catch. YouTube could cancel that premium tier at any time. That's why the best way to support us is at rebelnewsplus.com. It's just $8 a month, cheaper if you go annual, and you'll get exclusive extras like an ad-free site, comments access, and even the chance to submit op-eds. Wherever you join us, thanks for keeping our independent journalism alive and strong. Okey-doke. We've got a message here from our friends at Rumble. Then I'll do a couple of chats, because one of them pertains to a little project that I've been working on behind the scenes, as though I don't have enough projects and schemes here at Rebel News. I was like, you know what, let's just add another one in the mix. So this is from Rumble. They can cancel your accounts, they can freeze your cards, decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Boy, this is sure prescient given the Emergencies Act ruling the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters now more than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middleman, no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators you actually believe in, and believe that's us, you can use the Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently. Yours to protect your future, yours to protect your family. When the system fails, and boy, have they ever, when institutions turn on their own people, again, they sure did if you're Canadian, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom. Okay, great. I just want to hit these chats because one of them I'll give you guys, David, if you'll indulge me. It's not on the schedule, but I just want to give our beloved, loyal live stream viewers a hint at what I've been working on. So our first chat is from Mark Montmini, gives us $10, and I don't see a chat. If you missed the chat, just mention it in the free part of the chat, and maybe the kids will find it. And then we've got one from It's Paul Newman, $6.99. Paul, have I got something for you? He says, nostalgia lie is not a reason for Alberta to stay in Canada. Confederation was a practical agreement, and when it ceases to be fair, reassessment is prudent. Okay. So I want to tell you guys what I've been working on. So a couple of months ago, and I don't have a title yet, but it is done and it's getting a final edit. A couple of months ago, I got my hands on the 1995 Quebec Commission on Sovereignty. And what they did was they engaged civil society, institutions, insurance, people, academia, law, basically everybody. And they engaged them on the issue of independence because they wanted to know people's concerns and the realities of what they might face, like borders, federal land, parks, treaties, markets. Like markets don't like uncertainty, and what it would mean if Quebec left, what it would mean as a market shock, insurance, your interest rates. And they all sort of came to the conclusion that pay down your debt if you can, because interest rates are going to fluctuate wildly for the first little bit. But if you can weather that storm, it's smooth sailing. And we are, as Albertans, Westerners, we're in a better situation because we have a different market here and market partners. And so anyways, I took that 1995 Commission's report and examined it in a way that it would apply to the West, like the things we need to consider, because we're going to encounter a lot of voices of no, like, oh, what are we going to do about the military barracks, the guys physically in the barracks the day of independence? What do we do about that? And all of that stuff. And so I do have a new book coming out, and it's just, we're getting the final tweaks put on. But I wanted to share with you, Paul Newman, you specifically, you inspired me to share this. I posted it to my Facebook page, but that's just where my kids live. So I wanted to read the epilogue because I'm tired of the voices of no, because the voices of no have very never clearly met an Albertan. And just indulge me, it's probably going to take me 3 minutes to get to this. The epilogue of my book. So you're not getting the full. I'm just giving you the like closing summation of after I read through it, I wrote through it, I went back through it 20 times. This is my closing thoughts on my own work. Indulge me this. The work we're not afraid of. Alberta was never built by people waiting to be rescued. It was built by people who stayed when it would have been easier to leave, who worked harder when the wind cut sideways through their coats, who bet on themselves when no one else would. The farms didn't rise because a federal program nudged them into place. The rigs didn't punch into the earth because Ottawa believed in good vibes. This province exists because stubborn people decided to make it exist when nature and regulation said it should not. That matters now, because independence to Albertans has never been a threat or a tantrum. It isn't a hostage note slid under a closed federal door. It isn't a leverage. It's not extortion dressed up as identity. It's something quieter and more demanding than that. A standard. A question whispered to ourselves when the room empties out and the noise dies down. Are we capable of standing on our own? And the honest answer, the one we have already lived, is yes. We built cities where there was grass and trees. We turned winter into an industry. We learned how to drill through stubborn rock, mine the muskeg, and how to survive the bust that followed every boom. We learned that the land will break you if you don't respect it and reward you only after it has tested your spine and your mind. Hard years were not an exception here. They are the curriculum. Albertans don't romanticize hardship. We simply don't panic when it arrives. That is why independence does not terrify this place the way it terrifies political talk shows. We already know what uncertainty feels like. We have already ridden the cycle. Layoffs that empty hockey arenas mid-season, for sale signs that linger longer than anyone wants, families who adapt without permission from anyone east of the Manitoba border. We know what it means to lose work and then lose everything and then start again without waiting for instruction. We are not afraid of the work. What scares the political class is not that Alberta might want more responsibility. It's that we might be capable of it, because capability exposes necessity. Self-reliance makes dependence look like a choice. Independence, as Albertans speak about it in kitchens and on truck tailgates and on shop floors, is not a threat issued outward. It's a promise made inward. That no matter what arrangement governs us, we will not consent to be managed as a resource colony forever. That the people who raise families here, risk capital here, bury their parents here, deserve to govern themselves with the same maturity they bring to every other hard thing in their lives. This is not a rebellion against Canada. It's a declaration of self-respect. We know how to keep the lights on. We already feed people we will never meet. We export energy, food, ideas, labor, and tax revenue far beyond our borders. We already shoulder risk nationally while being told our confidence is somehow regional arrogance. We already pay into systems that do not love us back. None of that makes us bitter. It makes us honest. The prairie temperament does not crave approval. It craves solvency, fair dealings, a clear ledger. Say what the deal is and then keep it. That's why the independence conversation feels different here than it does elsewhere. It isn't screamed, it's weighed. Albertans understand that freedom is not free, it's maintenance. It's sometimes paperwork, it's trade deals and border policy and pensions and procurement and the quiet grinding labor of self-government. And still, when the bill lands on the table, we don't flip it over in panic. We read it, then we act. Quebec speaks of independence as a weapon pointed outward. Alberta speaks of it as a tool held inward. One is about leverage, the other is about competence. One says, do this for us or else. The other asks, what would it take for us to do this ourselves? Those are not the same impulse. Alberta is not looking for drama. We look for dignity in our decision making. We want to live under rules we recognize as our own, rules that make sense for a place where things grow slowly, temperatures fall brutally, and outcomes are weighed instead of gifted. We don't expect perfection from ourselves. We expect accountability. And we are far tougher on our own failures than any distant critic ever could be. We already know how this ends if we choose comfort over courage, the slow leak of authority, the quiet trade of responsibility for reassurance, the steady conversion of producers into petitioners. That path is familiar across history. Once you learn to outsource your future, you forget how to build one. But that forgetting has not taken root here. We still teach our kids how to fix what breaks. We still shake hands when we mean it. We still measure success in things that endure. Land paid off, businesses passed down, skills learned the hard way. Those are not the habits of people waiting to be ruled. Those are the habits of a people preparing to execute their ownership. Albertan or independence, if it ever comes, will not arrive as a rupture. It will arrive as a continuation. More of what we already do with fewer intermediaries, more responsibility where responsibility already lives, more consequences where consequences already land. No one is pretending it would be easy. Easy's never been the point. The point is that Alberta does not need to be permissioned into our potential. We have already lived it. We have weathered worse storms than political uncertainty. We have rebuilt after worse collapses than economic restructuring. We've outgrown worse losses than some institutional rearrangement. We're not reckless enough to treat freedom as a slogan, but neither are we timid enough to treat it as forbidden. If independence remains a dream, it will be because we chose that, not because we were intimidated out of the conversation. And if one day it becomes a shared project, it will not be born of rage, but of readiness. The same readiness that built our barns and churches before roads and towns were on the map. Albertans do not scare easily. We scare sensibly, and then we get to work right away. Whatever form our future takes, it will not be shaped by panic. It will be shaped by people who understand that freedom is not the absence of risk. It is the willingness to carry it ourselves, for better, for harder, for our own. If you guys have ideas for a title, put them in the chats. But that's the outro to my book.
I am so happy you read that for two reasons. That is a beautiful piece of writing and a beautiful piece of political analysis. In fact, for a while there, it kind of sounded like the speech you're going to give when you launch your campaign for senator.
No. But that was, I sort of I analyzed the different motivations between the two separatist movements. Quebec was all about identity and language. We are about that, for sure, but there's just so much more. And if you've ever met an Albertan, we're just not scared of hard work, and everything else is just paperwork.
Yeah, and one other issue, and I don't think it applies to Alberta as it did to Quebec, but I clearly remember, maybe because I'm a little older, that when 1976, when René Lévesque of the PQ won his first mandate, suddenly downtown Toronto became a boomtown for head offices relocating from Montreal to Toronto, and Montreal never ever recovered from that. But I don't see that being an issue with Alberta
right now.
Pardon me?
We have the opposite happening right now. So that was one of the things that the Quebec Commission sort of discovered. They're builders, they're thinkers, like the practical people. They're engineers, they're geologists, construction firms. They were moving out. We have the opposite happening here, where people are moving in, and a lot of people are citing the lower tax rate, the commitment to freedom, the entirely different culture. They weren't fleeing a culture as they were in Quebec. They're trying to join one.
It's just that weather.
Yeah, again,
I mean, I've talked to Lady Menzoid about going, because she loves Alberta, everything about it, and it's when she looks at the temperatures in the wintertime, suddenly her love or her lust ebb away.
And I can't wait to get outside. It's a balmy -12. I'm thrilled. We promised to come back after the break, and we would talk about China's response to President Trump.
Yes.
Let's watch this.
Already clarified our positions on Greenland multiple times. The international law based on the purposes and principles of the UN Charter is the foundation of the existing international order. It must be safeguarded. We urge the US side to stop using the so-called China threat to use as a pretext to gain selfish gains.
Selfish things.
Isn't this rich? China going to bat for democracy and wrapping itself in the UN Charter. By the way, you just lost the building as far as I'm concerned when you bring up UN Charter, Sheila.
Wow. I get why China's like this, but they could have made a different argument, not based on democracy, since you drive tanks over democracy protesters.
Yeah.
Are we just pretending like Tiananmen Square didn't happen? Are we pretending that the Hong Kong protests didn't happen, that you don't have the whatever that is the public safety law in Hong Kong, where if you express a sentiment contrary to the state, they'll just come get you? They arrested Cardinal Zen under that. Mm-hmm. The Catholic cardinal there, they arrested him under that because he was a little bit too anti-CCP for the likes of them. Are we just pretending like there isn't a constant threat that they're going to take over Taiwan any given day?
And Greenland, as we mentioned before the break. I mean, as much as Donald Trump's getting so much heat, don't forget that Russia and China have their eyes on Greenland. And really, of the 50,000 or so inhabitants of Greenland, if you had a choice, Russia, China, or the United States of America, what would you rather be part of? Especially given, Sheila, this gets lost in the rhetoric. Greenland has an incredible, vast, untapped reservoir of minerals.
Right.
And to me, it's win-win to be under the American protective umbrella and to develop that country's natural mineral wealth for the wealth of Greenlanders, who I understand, Sheila, and I don't know what the dynamic is. Evidently, when a Greenlander goes to Denmark, they're not really treated that well. I have no idea why, but I'm trying to figure out what the downside is.
It's the same as when a Westerner goes to Ottawa, I suspect. But,
maybe that's a good analogy.
There is a strong, I don't want to say separatist because it's wrong, independence sentiment amongst Greenlanders. Was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, that the leader of the Greenland Opposition Party, my Greenland politics are not up to snuff for me to be properly commenting on this, but we did all watch him go on CBC with David Cochrane, and he's like, well, it's up to Greenlanders, isn't it? Basically saying the Danes don't get a say. Perhaps we do want to join the Americans, and it's for us to decide. And I was like, yeah, good for you. Exactly how I feel.
That's right. As I understand it, the people of Greenland have a referendum power to decide their fate. I'm really wondering, Sheila, if they did have a referendum on this issue, which way it goes. I mean, whenever I hear mainstream media outlets, they're finding every single Greenlander that's scared of Donald Trump in the U.S. Is that really representative of?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because their opposition party seems pretty independence-minded, and we haven't even heard what the Americans are offering yet. I want to know what they're offering me. let alone the people of Greenland. Like, you know, if Trump rolled in there and said, okay, well, there's like 11 of you in Denmark or in Greenland, we give you a bunch of money and American citizenship, what would they say?
And, well, why don't we throw to a video, a quip. This is why I just so love Trump's sense of humor. He was talking about how Denmark muscling up, at least symbolically, by sending some troops along with some other European nations over to Greenland. Let's hear what President Trump had to say about that.
Do about things such as that not going to happen. We're not, I can't rely on Denmark being able to fend themselves off. They were talking about they put an extra dog, and they were serious about this. They put an extra dog sled there last month. They added a second dog sled. That's not going to do the trick.
Denmark fought alongside the United States in both Afghanistan
Thank you
and
for telling me
Iraq.
that. I appreciate it.
But
I have a very good relationship with Denmark, and we'll see how it all works out. I think something will work out. Yeah.
Amazing. Let's put it this way, Sheila, and you can ask the Inuit this or anyone else. Skidoo, snowmobiles, Trump dog sleds. Forget about the dog sled in the 21st
Skidoo is a Bombardier product. Snowmobiles. I think was it Mark Carney? Was he contemplating sending Canadians to Denmark?
Yes, he is.
Or
contemplating.
To Greenland?
What a big mistake that'll be. And if he does, it's more evidence that he does not want a trade deal with the U.S.
Well, it's so confrontational unnecessarily. Exactly. Well, by the way, what are we going to do? Throw a box of tampons at the Americans? Like what? What are you thinking?
No, well, as always, what he's thinking, I think, Sheila, is what's good for Brookfield. So that, at the end of the day, is what drives a Mark Carney decision. I really believe that.
Where do we want to go next? We have one of two stories we can cover. Do we want to talk about how Toronto's mental health is collapsing? I'm not sure why we needed a report to figure that out. I saw the mayor you guys elected.
Yep. And ride the subway on any given day, which I haven't for like 2 decades now, but I understand it's not a nice place.
Yeah, you guys do have a mental health crisis. We've all seen Olivia Chow, and we've seen the people who vote for Olivia Chow. Yeah. So it says, this is unprecedented. New report card shows Toronto's mental health is collapsing. Well, this is just the post-pandemic catastrophe. Toronto's mental health has deteriorated so rapidly over the past decade that the number of residents who say they are doing well has collapsed from nearly 3/4 to barely half, a situation that at least one expert calls unprecedented and crazy. I think some liberal is going to say that that's ableist to use the word crazy. But I wonder, show the graph. Olivia, show the graph, because the graph tells the story that nobody else is talking about here. It's in the article. It's almost like something happened in 2020 that caused a stark drop-off. Like you see the years before, it didn't come down from 73 to 68. That's the fallout from the Trudeau election. And then it sort of hovers in the mid to high 60s and then just, bam, drops right off. And people never recovered from the pandemic and what the government did to them. And the government now is looking at this and saying, man, we got to do something about it. And it's like, you did this. You did this.
Yeah, and Sheila, with all due respect, I think it goes back further decades than just some 5 years ago. In the 60s and the 70s, that was the great failed experiment of shutting down institutions for those who were mentally ill. We had new pharmaceutical products. As long as they take their meds, everything will be okay. Well, that was a big ask. And when they don't take their meds, well, this is what we have. This is why I subscribe to a different MAGA, Make Asylums Great Again. And I'm serious. For their protection and society at large, if you're mentally ill and there is a large percentage of homeless people living in brutal, freezing conditions who are mentally ill, how is that compassion?
Right. Well, have you tried giving them drugs? Like giving them like heroin on behalf of the state? That'll help. That's another thing Toronto tried.
And of course, if it ain't working out for you, there's this thing called MAID. Why not just shrug off your mortal coil?
Exactly. Like, this is a crazy, crazy country we live in. I'm not sure the Americans want it. One last thing before we keep going. This is I think a predictor of the government's next move on that Freedom Convoy ruling. Because as we know, the Freedom Convoy, the invocation of the Emergencies Act was ruled unconstitutional and illegal, a violation of the Charter rights of Canadians. The government appealed that decision. Why wouldn't they? They have all the money, yours, and I think they want to be able to use that Emergencies Act again a little more readily without having to meet a legal standard. So if they get away with not meeting a legal standard once, they'll do it again. Now, we heard the good news last Friday, live on air, with Tamara Lich, leader of the Freedom Convoy, that the appeals court upheld that decision. The government has one final move. They can appeal it to the Supreme Court. Here's why I think they're gonna, despite potentially losing again. Any Freedom Convoy, this is from our friends at Blackhawks, any Freedom Convoy appeal to the Supreme Court will be heard by a Chief Justice who publicly called protesters, quote, anarchists and hostage takers. Chief Justice Richard Wagner's remarks were highly inappropriate, said one legal group. Conflicts of interest may arise from the judge having expressed views evidencing bias. No kidding. So that's why I think that we should anticipate one last appeal, one last Hail Mary from the godless government up to the Supreme Court on this ruling.
Sheila, I hate to be a nitpicker here when it comes to the nitty-gritty, but who was taken hostage? Can the Chief Justice give us a name of somebody that was, I don't know, held in a trailer of a truck on Wellington Street?
How about 6 million Canadians were held hostage inside of their own country, being unable to exercise their Section 6 charter right of movement because they didn't produce their vaccine status, a useless vaccine, to the airlines and the government. They didn't put it into the ArriveCan app, which was a scam as well.
100%. And what about economic hostage taking? What about those convoy supporters who suddenly had their bank accounts frozen, suffering an economic death sentence? What about that kind of hostage? But really, what is he talking about? Who was taken hostage? Words matter, especially when you're a Supreme Court justice, Sheila.
Right. So anyways, if that appeal is to be heard, it'll be heard by him.
I'll tell you, I heard what you said, that you think they will appeal it. I was talking to Tamara Lich on the weekend, and I think it's 50-50, Sheila. I could see it going either way because we've had the lower court go against the government. We had the appeals court go against the government. Do you really want to go 3 strikes and you're out? Do you want that kind of humiliation? And by the way, I think that would be the only thing holding them back because of the vendetta they have against the Freedom Convoy. So if they don't appeal it, it won't surprise me. If they appeal it, it won't surprise me either. We'll see.
Yep. All right. I think that's it. We've got a couple of chats here.
Okay.
4, actually. 4 more, I believe. J Toma 8318 gives us $5. Contact China Uncensored and the China Show for CCP information from Westerners that actually lived in China. Excellent source. Mike Edzer's got a stable of ethnically Chinese people that he relies on. Silverfeet 1280 gives us $5. For anyone not a resident of Alberta but wants to donate to Stay Free Alberta, if you have a corporation in Alberta, it can donate to Stay Free Alberta. That's the petition gathering organization. I don't know if that's true or not. So don't take that as Elections Alberta advice on behalf of me. I'm just reading the chat. Paul Newman says, gives me $5 with a title suggestion. The Sword versus the Shield, Why Alberta and Quebec Imagine Independence Differently. We do. But the bulk of the book is what we can actually learn from the work they already did. Because they did a lot of work. And we approach it through different worldviews, obviously, and for different, same reasons, but also different reasons and more reasons. But they did consider a lot of stuff, a lot of things that I've seen people asking these questions at town halls. And I thought, well, if somebody actually did the work, why don't I just take a shortcut? And so anyways, that's the crux of the book.
You know, Sheila, I'm just wondering about, when it comes to China, would it be safe for a Rebel News reporter to go to China, do you think?
I don't think so after Kian and Avi went to Hong Kong.
Yeah, that's what
I
I'm
don't
thinking
think so.
too. Wow.
Probably not.
I was in Hong Kong in 1999, believe it or not, in a hockey tournament. There was no problem back then. The censor, and it was the funniest thing. I'm walking on a street of Hong Kong and I see a tall white guy with a full head of white hair. And I said,
Basketball?
That guy looks like Gordie Howe. It was Gordie Howe. I couldn't believe
Really?
it. Yeah. He was part of the hockey tournament to give out the championship trophy, which we did not win, but I've overcome the bitterness of that. But yeah, I don't think it would be safe anymore.
You're still bringing it up, so maybe you didn't. Twinks gives us $5 and says, Carney's China speech, New World Order, straight out of the Klaus Schwab WEF manifesto. Yeah.
Yeah.
Silver Feet, $5. Book name, Mirrored Reflections of Freedom and Their Differences.
Huh.
I think I need something, and then what Alberta separatists can learn from Quebec, or what the Alberta independence movement can learn from Quebec. But I just need that, like, first something. That's always the hardest part of writing a book, is that, like, one word for your title, and I'm not real good at it. That's why I'm crowdsourcing it. I think that's it. We're all
I'm
caught
still
up.
thinking myself, I've got nothing, ironically, on National Imagination Day. So.
Look at that. And it's, National Don't Call Names or something week, and I've got eight minutes into the week.
Yeah,
blew it.
that ship quickly sailed, kind of like a
Right,
speedboat.
gone. Way out of the port.
Well, Sheila, thanks so much for co-hosting. Folks, tomorrow Sheila will be back, hopefully with some more foreshadowing of her book. I thought that was just a beautiful bit of prose that Sheila read earlier today, and she'll be with the lovely Lise Merle from Saskatchewan. I'll be back on Friday, likely with Drea, for the Rebel News live stream roundtable. I want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you especially to all of you who made donations, quite a few today, so thanks so much for that. And as always, stay safe and stay sane.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.